I'm Shannon Ewing. I work with Presearch, and I am here today to talk to you about environmental protection. We could go many ways with this conversation, but just a quick synopsis. For one example, in the 1960s in the U.S., there were mass amounts of pollution. Companies had run rampant. There were huge problems with air quality. There were entire rivers being set on fire because they were so heavily polluted. There was coal mining in one state leading to acid rain in others. So clearly there was a need for a centralized, federal government kind of program in order to oversee these things because local state programs weren't going to cover it. So not only did they need the oversight, but mainly it was because society still didn't know enough about environmental protection. We were still trying to figure out how to measure these things, what the long-term impacts were actually going to be, what projects were going to have problems. But B, also because we didn't have the decentralized means of communication. Media chose to cover what they wanted to cover, and we had no idea on how to research these things ourselves, much less get the message out to each other. Today we have thousands of green bloggers that are happy to spread the word, to blow the whistle, to shame bad actors. We have Instagram influencers shouting about trophy hunters. We have near daily Facebook campaigns. We are constantly barraged with different things that are going on with the environment and how we can contribute to that. We are finally engaging because we have the means to engage. As in most areas, we have the Environmental Protection Agency, and as benevolent as they might be, they lag behind. It's heavily bureaucratic. It takes a long time to respond to anything. They can't keep up with the pace of innovation, not only to adapt to the new strategies that we have to offer, but also not to effectively prevent the new leeches upon the global commons. Also, as many of us in the room know, private enterprise is going to be always the most effective in coming up with new methods and technologies. The private sector will be where the innovation happens and where I believe everyone here is happy to focus. We have all sorts of organizations today. Many of you are familiar with all sorts of projects doing great things to pull plastic out of the oceans, to help developing regions begin to recycle and leapfrog us in terms of waste solutions. We have, we're creating cattail containers and coffee cups out of cassava, finding new ways that we don't have to continue leaching on the planet. We're seeing emission-free airplanes and diamonds made out of air pollution, pulling carbon out of the sky. And all of this happened not because of mandates, but because people care. It's not the EPA forcing us to come up with creativity and innovative solutions. It's that people care about those things and are creating them independently. The farm to table movement is changing the way that we eat, the way that we cultivate our food, the way that we interact with the meals on our table. Homesteaders have done a full circle back to very traditional systems and are finding ways that cooperative farming can create local solutions, cut down on waste, and even create microgrid power solutions among each other. We are spontaneously coming up with peer-to-peer solutions to protect our planet. Again, all of this is without the recommendation of government. It is out with their influence. It is simply because we care and we will come up with solutions for things that we care about. The projects that we are seeing from the government are in some ways laughable. We have a proposal from the U.S. Department of Defense right now who is asking that we find a way to create biodegradable ammunition. The amount of bullet casings from their practice rounds are leaching so many minerals and creating so much pollution. Military sites are some of the most polluted places on the planet. And they said that maybe if we start adding seeds to the ammunition cases and we feed animals, it won't quite be so bad that we're firing off so many rounds. As this group knows, we can be a hell of a lot more creative than that. We aren't, the DoD isn't the only organization in question. We've heard a lot about the problems with crypto mining, that we are creating new forms of energy drain. It is a alarmingly it is alarmingly consumptive. But once we dig into those numbers, we see that it is 1/3 the amount of energy is consumed by Bitcoin mining is consumed by the traditional banking sector. When we start looking at the banking system itself in terms of how many different layers there are, from the printing presses all the way through the teller that you speak to on a daily basis. There's data processors, there's ATMs that need to be created. There are armored vehicles around the world consuming gas. There's employees commuting to work. There are 100-acre data farms and data centers creating all sorts of tugs on the system, but that's not in front of the person when they use their Visa, MasterCard, ATM transaction or go buy a coffee with their card. So yes, we have, as a crypto community, come under some speculation as well, and rightly so. But in many ways, that is just another challenge that we were quickly overcoming and finding ways to continue to leapfrog the problems that we've seen in traditional sectors. We are inherently forward-thinking in decentralist movements. We are constantly wondering what's next and logarithmically growing these projects. Even before one has finalized, we are already thinking 10 steps ahead and saying, how can we make it better? How can we augment? There's also the financial incentive, because we would like to make these projects lighter, easier to run, easier on not only in the environment, but on our pocketbooks. And I'm pretty sure that Iceland is getting sick of all of us moving there. We have projects that are zero carbon. We have a plethora of clean and renewable energy projects coming out, helping for peer-to-peer electric connectivity across the world. And with the emerging options just creating day by day, there's new ways that these projects of decentralization that are creating ways that we can interact with each other and make sure that we are bringing this back down to a micro level, that we don't need mass global energy production. And with these options, right now we are uniquely poised. We have more information and more connectivity and more access to the resources that we are creating for and amongst each other, that we can finally start really voting with our assets that matter the most, our attention and our Doge. Thank you.